Hey everybody, I'm Shonna and welcome back to my channel, Shonna MissyMe HD, where I strive to inform, encourage, and motivate you to achieve your educational goals by helping you gain admission into healthcare related undergrad and graduate programs. And today we are discussing medical school, specifically my MCAT experience. A lot of you guys ask about this, and so I decided to make a video that is dedicated to talking about my MCAT experience, why I had to take the test twice, and what I did to improve my score. So before we get started, you guys know what to do. Go ahead and subscribe. Make sure you press the notification bell so that you know when I release the next video. Follow-up videos will include the general things to know about the MCAT, as well as a detailed video that breaks down the MCAT itself. So be on the lookout for those videos, guys. Alright, before we get started, I'm excited to announce that I'm going to start doing my YouTube shout outs for all of my followers and subscribers. And there are 3 ways that you can get a YouTube shout out. Number 1 is to subscribe, turn on your notifications, like and comment my videos. Just use the hashtag MissyMeTips. As well as on Instagram, if you repost any of my stories using the same hashtag MissyMeTips. And then also on TikTok, on days that I'm promoting my YouTube video, if you comment on that TikTok video using the hashtag MissyMeTips, then that is the 3rd way that you can receive a shout out on my YouTube videos. First, I want to give you guys a broad overview of my MCAT experience, and then I'll go into like the reasons why I think I did so poorly the first time I took the exam, and then what I did to improve my score the second time around. So first of all, I am a current anesthesia resident if you're new to my channel. So obviously I survived the MCAT, made it into med school, and made it into residency successfully. Use my video as motivation, please, because a lot of people think that, you know, if you do poorly in one area that is like over for you, you have to be this perfect student, but that is not true, and I'm gonna show you guys how untrue it is. So first of all, I took the exam my junior year, the spring semester of my junior year, which was 2013. That was before the psychology and sociology part was added to the test. There were actually psychology and sociology questions on my exam, but they were like tester questions. It was not a scored section for my test. So I took it before that change happened. The first time I took the test, like I said on my previous video, if you haven't watched Struggles of Becoming a Doctor, you can watch that video where I talk about a few more things that were difficult for me. But specifically in that video, I talk about how the first time I took the MCAT, I scored a 15, which is terrible, it's laughable, it's embarrassing, but it's my truth is what happened, and I'm not gonna sugarcoat or be fake with y'all about my experience, because I can't help you if I'm not being honest, right? And so I scored a 15, and that correlates to like a 484 or 480 something in today's test, which is not gonna get you into med school, right? And so I retook the exam in the summer of 2013 before med schools actually started to look at applications. I wanted to make sure that my score was in, because I knew how important it was going to be that I had a newer score available for application committees to see. So the second time around I took the exam, I scored a 27, which correlates to a 503, 504 in today's scores, which is still like below average. But it was high enough for me to get into med school. Like, I'm proud of my improvements because I almost doubled my score. A lot of the medical schools were very impressed with my improvement, and that was one of the things that I had to talk about on my medical school interviews. So I definitely think that it kind of like set me apart, because I was one of those students who had faced failure and pretty much worked my butt off to reach my goals. So that is my MCAT stats or whatever, and now I'm going to talk about what I think were the factors and why I did so poorly. So I have like 5 reasons that I think attributed to me doing so poorly the first time around. And so number 5, I think that the first mistake I made was not surrounding myself with other students, other pre-med students who were taking the exam at that time. And to be honest with you, like, I can't even tell you like who was to this day. I have no idea, because I did not put in the effort to join a community or to join a group of friends who who were studying. I didn't tell anyone I was studying except for my line sisters. They knew I was studying, my family knew I was studying, of course, but none of my line sisters were taking the exam at that time. And then I didn't talk to like any of the students in my classes who were probably preparing for the exam as well. And so that's the first mistake I made, because I wasn't able to kind of like get into the MCAT groove of studying. It wasn't like a priority and I wasn't focused on it. And I feel like had I been around people who were also studying for the MCAT, I would have realized how intense it was and how they were prioritizing it over everything else, and it might have rubbed off on me in a positive way to where I would have became a little bit more focused, a little bit more serious, and I probably would have had different results. So number 4, I think that the way I was studying was obviously ineffective, and I like to say that there's a difference between like just studying and then actively studying. And I think that the methods that I was using for MCAT studying were very similar to how I study for exams in my classes, which is ineffective for the MCAT, because this test is nothing like exams that you take in your classes. If you think those tests are hard and you have to put in time and it's challenging, then you are in for a rude awakening when it comes to the MCAT. So what I was doing the first time I studied was more so, you know, reading paragraphs or chapters out of textbooks, and then, you know, doing a couple of practice questions. And then on my practice questions, the questions that I got wrong, I would read over them, but I wouldn't necessarily dissect the question and figure out what was it that I was missing, what part of the concept or what part of the equation or what part of this question threw me off. Like, I didn't actively study, I did not put in the effort that it really required. And so how I changed that was I really dissected those questions that I got wrong, and even I took things a step further. Like, even if the question wasn't necessarily about one particular topic, if it had any type of relevance, I went ahead and restudied that as well, just to make sure that I was like actively connecting the pieces and connecting the dots so that things made sense in my head, which is very important for MCAT. You do not want to go into the exam with a whole bunch of random facts all over your mind. You want to go in with a large puzzle or a large picture of every single concept that could potentially be tested on the MCAT, and then know how to take the different details and different pieces of the exam or the different pieces in the question stem that they throw at you and connect that dot. So the third mistake that I made is that I did not do all of the practice tests that I had access to. Now, you will probably hear from like other medical students or people who are already in residencies, or maybe even practicing physicians, or these like MCAT experts that are on YouTube who say that you may only need to study for 2 months, or you may, you know, only need to take the 4 MCAT prep tests offered by the AAMC and you'll be fine. Okay, one thing I want to say is that studying for MCAT in this entire medical school process is going to be different for everybody. We will not be able to all do the same exact thing and get the same exact results. So I would say over prepare versus under prepare. So if you have access to 8 or 9 practice exams, do all 8 or 9. You know, don't just do half of them because you feel like you're gonna go in and be okay, your confidence is sky high. Like, go ahead and do it, because you'd rather take an extra 4 practice tests versus have to retake the MCAT, period. Trust me. Just go ahead and utilize every resource that you have, whatever you have, paid or unpaid, like, utilize it. The second mistake that I think I made is that I completely underestimated the exam. Like I said previously, I studied the exam as if I was studying for a class, which is terrible. Like, and at the time I didn't know that, obviously, but like now that I'm like in hindsight, I'm able to say that. But it's not the same. It's nothing like the SAT, ACT. It's nothing like the exams that you take in your pre-med classes. Trust me, do not underestimate this exam. It is very long, it's exhausting, it is purposely made to be challenging. Okay, so most tests that we take are made to gauge your current understanding of a particular subject. This test is literally made to see How well can you critically think? How well can you reason? How well can you solve problems based off of the information that we think you should know by now? Okay, and so it's a totally different exam, and you don't want to underestimate it. I definitely underestimated this exam. It kicked my obviously with a 15, even the second time around it still kicked me, you know what I mean? So do not go to this exam thinking that you're just gonna rock it because you've rocked everything else in your life and nothing has been hard for you so far. Welcome to the medical school journey. It is hard. If you haven't watched my video, Med School Type or Nah, I'll link it in the description box, but check that video out. And I kind of talk about like what type of student I was. Like, high school was not hard for me. Even college, like, it wasn't that much of a challenge. I didn't feel challenged till I started studying for the MCAT. So if you're a pretty confident student and you're like, oh, it shouldn't be that hard, sweetie, please, sir, please do not underestimate this exam. And my number one mistake that I made was definitely my study plan and timing. I didn't have a study plan. Okay, and then the timing, I procrastinated so much. I wasted a lot of my time halfway studying, or like I said, ineffectively studying, not actively studying. And then when I wanted to like get hella serious, I only had a couple of weeks left, and by that time it was just way too late. I was cramming things in my mind and things weren't adding up, things weren't making complete sense. I wasn't able to connect those dots or to complete the puzzle, right? And so when I went into the exam, I was that student who had a bunch of random facts thrown all over the place and nothing really made sense conceptually. And I think that not only was that, you know, terrible preparation as far as having my information on lock, I think that it was bad for my just test taking strategy, period. Like my timing, I was running out of time on each section before I had even like finished all of my questions, so therefore I guessed on a lot of them. I also spent a lot of time trying to like choose an answer between answer choices that I kind of like narrowed down to two answers, and I'm just like, oh, I remember saying this, I remember saying that, but like I didn't know anything, right? I just kind of remember vaguely reading about this or reading about that, and like trying to remember what my professor said, or trying to remember like this chart or whatever high yield stuff that you see on the chart. Like, it was a legit shit show. But you know, I'm just being honest with you guys, like that is really what happened to me. And so the second time around, I had a actual schedule that I stuck to. I studied for hours every single day. I didn't do anything. I didn't really socialize a lot. I made sure that I got through what I wanted to get through before I ended my studying for that day. And then I did every single practice question that I could get my hands on, and I went through every single wrong answer. And I didn't just go through it, I actively tried to figure out, what did I think, like when I read the question, where did my mind go? Like, what did I start to think about? What should have I thought about? And what should I know for future questions? If I think about this, I need to relate that to this. I took the next step with each question, even though that might not have been the question I was asked. So I definitely had to change up my studying routines. I had to change up how much time I spent. And if you guys, so between getting my score back in like May or whatever it was and taking the test again at the end of the summer, there's only like a 2.5 month window. So I didn't take a whole lot of time to study for the exam again. But some people, you know, you'll be able to just like hop back in and take the test again, or some may, you know, you may need to take 6 months to almost a year and retest the next year, because at the end of the day, when it comes to like applying to medical school, you want your application to be as optimized as possible. You want to show the medical schools your best at everything. Your best, not the best, your best. Okay, and so if that means you have to delay applying to medical school for a year just so that you can work on your MCAT, then hey, so be it. That's just what you have to do. and I guarantee you that'll look a lot better to medical schools than applying with crappy MCAT scores or several times. And so I know a lot of you guys probably have questions about the MCAT specifically. Please look forward to my follow-up videos where I talk about the things you need to know about the MCAT before you take the test, as well as breaking down the MCAT in detail as far as sections, timing, number of questions, all that type of stuff. Okay, so I hope this was helpful. You guys have a great day.